you are. Zach left this morning. Ethan and Micah had quite the...
Snowflakes clung to the windowsill outside Lydia's bedroom. Inside, her reflection stared back in the half-lit mirror. Soft, contemplative eyes framed by browns the color of freshly tilled earth. She lifted her wedding ring, slender, delicate, given only months ago, and pressed it lightly against the glass, as though seeking warmth in its cool metal. This room, once a childhood fortress, now smelled faintly of lavender and new linen. It was Lydia's sanctuary, but as of late, it felt like a crossroads, between who she was raised to be, who she thought she wanted to become, and who she was slowly discovering she could be. She closed her eyes and exhaled. That wedding dress! It had been a moment suspended in time. She remembered slipping into her mother's gown, vintage and achingly beautiful, rosette blooms lining the off-shoulder neckline, train billowing like a half-circle of white petals. She looked at herself and saw not just a bride, but a bridge between past and future, honoring, yet rewriting. She thought of that little voice inside her, the one that whispered during quiet dawns, "Your feelings matter." Because for so long, amidst caring for siblings and managing chores, that voice had been quiet. Too often hushed. Fifth of 9 children, surrogate mom, responsible one. She had carried that weight with both grace and exhaustion. She often wondered, who am I without it? Tonight, she typed into her journal, "I deserve to name my story." The screen glowed with her words. I used to think that being good meant being quiet. But the quiet, it was heavy. It grew roots in my chest and told me that to speak was selfish. She paused. The words stung both sharp and true. She remembered afternoons when she streaked across the yard, seeking solace in prayer. After she broke her parents' trust about texting a friend, she walked to the field, trembling, and prayed for forgiveness, for God, for them, for herself. The Holy Spirit, she said, was her guide, but sometimes she wondered if she struggled to separate what was God's voice from what was fear. Now, at 21, married to Zach Wise and standing on the edge of the next chapter, she had learned rest, but it had cost her. The responsibilities, the emotional suppression, they shaped her. And the hardest thing she'd never talked about, the death of her baby brother Joshua, weighed in the corners of her mind. She was 4 when he died. The family never spoke of him. In the silence, grief grew vines that wrapped tight around every conversation, every memory. Lydia's gaze softened, on the opposite side of the mirror. The gentle hills of the Georgia farm seemed to ripple in the moonlight. She pictured Zach there, steady, reminding her that her feelings mattered. He told her, "Your thoughts matter. Your emotions matter." And somehow, believing that had helped her remember herself. Her phone buzzed. A text from a group chat, "How's the planning going?" They referred to their mission trip to Germany, another new path unfolding. Lydia smiled. She and Zach had decided to marry before going. It was sudden, but in that suddenness, there was clarity. The dress she'd chosen, lace and sparkle yet light and flowy, reflected who she was, graceful, free-spirited, not bound by tradition, but honoring it. In that sense, the gown was a metaphor. She had worn the past and stepped into freedom. She reopened her journal and continued writing. "I used to measure my worth in how much I did for others. But now, I learn that I am enough. Even when I sit quietly. Even when I ask for what I need. Even when I say, this is not okay." She leaned back, feeling the weight lift, as if the words were wings lifting dust off her heart. Now, the snow whispered against the pane, petals of winter greeting her. She stood and padded to the desk, placing her hand over the ring once more. "I am listening," she whispered, not to anyone, not even for anyone, but to herself. And in that moment, Lydia felt free. This story draws from the real Welcome to Plathville experiences. Lydia wearing her mother's wedding dress, her role as caretaker, the suppressed grief of losing her brother Joshua, and the love and grounding Zach brought into her life. It's a tender snapshot of a young woman finally hearing her own voice.